Welcome back, everyone. Today we are building an N-scale tugboat and barge. This is such an exciting project. And you know, this model has a special meaning to me because as a little kid, my grandfather would take me down to the river, the Mississippi River, and we would watch tugboats push barges up and down the river. And they would go underneath a bridge that connected Iowa to Illinois. Such an incredible scene, and just such an amazing memories that I have spending time with my grandpa. Now, if you'd like to purchase this model, this kit, please visit my website at jasonjensentrains.com. And remember, if you are a Patreon member, you receive a discount, and the discount code can be found on my Patreon page. And I'll put it right here on the screen for you. All right, we have a lot to do today, so let's get to it. Okay, I've decided to build the barge first. It's the easiest, it'll go pretty quick, and then we'll do the tugboat. So this is the first piece you'll need, and we'll want to separate these and then cut out the center of this. Okay, we don't need this piece. You can put it in your scrap box for a later project. Now we just simply need to glue these together, and it's going to be flush in the back. So it's wider in the front, and you'll see they don't line up. You want it to line up in the back. But first, what we need to do is take a file and make sure that's nice and smooth. You can see there's a little piece that from breaking it off of the breaking that piece out of the center. Okay, and we have some on the side here. I'll put a link in the description for files. Same on this one. Very important that it's smooth because other pieces get glued on this, and it's important that they sit flush. Okay, so you may want to grab a pencil. Okay, so draw a line. That way you know where to glue. You could use wood glue, but I find that super glue works really well. Make sure it's lined up on the sides and the back is flat. Now if you want to, they lined up perfectly, but you could take a file make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, now let's set that aside. For all of my Patreon members, I am going to be running a contest on my Patreon page. Recently, I kit bashed an N-scale factory. And the contest is to come up with a name for it and to give a real short description of what the factory produces. Now the winner will receive 50% off their next total order. Now again, that's for all of the Patreon members. So check my Patreon page for that. All right, let's get back to the build. Next, we're going to take this piece and cut all the pieces out because we're going to spray a gray primer on everything. Okay, now let's get a gray primer sprayed on all these. Actually, these pieces here get a reddish brown primer sprayed on them. And so this is the only piece that gets a gray primer sprayed on it. So I'll put the other piece at the end of my board, and then I'll spray these. Okay, I've got all my pieces painted. That is just a gray primer. There is a reddish brown primer on these, and I painted this with Old Rust. And now I'm going to take bittersweet chocolate and kind of go around the edges. Now you don't want it to be thick because there's pieces that get glued in here, and you want them to be level and flush with the base and the sides. Okay, I'm getting most of the paint off of my brush. Now mine's going to be used for scrap metal, so this is going to be pretty beat up looking on the bottom. But if yours is hauling grain or sand or something else, you may want to paint it differently. Now we're going to take this piece right here. There's three that are the same length. I'll show you quick. It's the middle one. So it's not the thickest and it's not the thinnest. It's the middle one. And in the instructions they'll be numbered. So we're putting glue on the back. It's important to make sure that the glue, whatever glue you're using, goes all the way to the edge. You don't want it lifting. You want to make sure that's leveled. So it's hard to tell, but there's a light or a slight overhang. Okay, now we're going to take the thinnest one and we're going to glue it on the front right there. Now again, you want to make sure that it's flush on the top and flush on the sides. Same with this back piece, make sure it's flush on the sides. And if it's not, mine's a slightly overhanging. Okay. Now we're going to do the sides. The first time I wiped it, I made it too thin. Okay, so as you can see, it's completely covered. Now line up the front. Okay. Now we'll do the other side. Okay, so all four sides are glued on. And it's flush all the way around. It's important because our deck gets glued on there like that. Okay, what to do next? I guess we can paint this. Oh, I'm sorry. Again, as most of you know, when I'm building the first one, I have no instructions. And after I'm done, then I'll write the instructions. So, we're going to glue that piece in right there. Okay, so I just put a bead of glue towards the edge and one there. Now, it fits down in there. So put it down in there first, then tilt it back. Now it's raised. You'll be able to feel that. I don't know if the camera can pick it up. It's raised a little bit, and that's why there's a slight overhang with these, because it kind of matches that, so it should fit. It should sit completely flat now. Okay, now we'll work on this. We're going to paint individual panels. I don't know if you can see, but I've engraved panel lines on there for you so that you can paint those. Okay, real quick, I'm taking a silver, gunmetal gray, reddish brown. I'm using the silver and gunmetal because they're metallic. They're metal colors, and it'll make the base look like metal. Gotta shake it first. Only takes a drop. Okay, and then maybe we have a brown color. This one's called earth brown. Okay. So I'm dipping it in the silver and earth brown. So this time I just added a little bit more of the earth brown to it. You just want them all to be slightly different. Okay, we'll do gunmetal, a little bit of that reddish brown. Okay, next I'm using light metal. It's a dry brush paint from Ammo. Kind of just hitting the center of those panels. Okay, now I'm going to try something I haven't done before. It's a panel liner. And it is from Tamiya. Okay, let me try it on the side first, on a thin one. Oh man, that is great. You barely have to touch it and it just goes into the lines. So if you hold it at an angle, you gotta be careful you don't get any drips. If you hold it at an angle and touch it, it just will follow that line. Let me show you quick. And it has a really thin brush on it. So if you have a steady hand, even if you don't, if you put it on there and then wipe, it'll just stay in the cracks. Man, this jar will last a lifetime. I would probably recommend giving that a little while to dry, but for the video, I'm going to go ahead and glue it on. Important that you get it all the way to the edge. All the way to the edges. Okay, now we're going to take burnt sienna, and I think I'm going to mix a little bit of earth brown with it. We don't need a lot. We're going to do some chipping on the sides. Hopefully you can see that good. It's not a lot. It's really towards just on the corners and some of the edges.
You could take your brush and do a little bit of dry brushing. Now keep in mind it's N scale, so you don't want to go too heavy or too big with your streaks. Okay, next we're going to take this piece right here. And we're going to spray this with a gray primer, both sides. Then we're going to spray it a teal color. Okay, it is done. Now the reason you spray this first with a gray primer is because if you spray the teal over that dark brown material, it's basically a wood. And it'll soak in and it'll be a dark, it just won't be the correct color that you want. So put a gray on there first, which kind of seals the wood, then put the teal over it. Okay, now we have to cut out all these pieces. Now you'll notice I already did, after I sprayed it with a primer, I cut out this long thin piece, because that thin piece is a bumper that gets put on the back. Quick note, when you're cutting out all these little triangles, try to cut as close to the triangle as possible so that it's flush on the back side of the triangle and you're leaving the little nub on the sprue part. Hopefully that makes sense. It'll just save you time because you won't have to then file the back side of the triangle. Be careful not to lose any of these. Might be a good idea to lay down a white sheet of paper when you're cutting these. Okay, and again, it's important to paint both sides. Okay, we don't need this. Now, with these, we'll take some old rust. Now, on the side that has the lines engraved, we're going to sponge rust along the top. We're going to do the same on these other three pieces. This long one and these two. Okay, those are all rusted. Now we're going to glue them in place, and the side that we put the rust on that has the engraved lines faces out, so it's going to get glued right like that. Now it's up to you if you want to paint the back side of this a rust color now, or after it's in you can paint it then, but it's going to need to be a rust color on the back side of all these. I'm going to do mine after it's in. Okay, so just make sure that they're nice and straight. If you have to bend them a little bit, be careful, don't snap them. But if you just gently bend it, you can get them straight. Okay, so I just put glue on the edge, and it's okay if you get a little bit on the front, right at the bottom. Now you can take your block make sure everything's sitting down in there flush, and press it up against the sides. It's a tight fit, so don't be concerned. Now it's important that you glue this long sides on first, then put the front and back on. Okay, let's take a little break from gluing and paint the inside of this. Now it's completely up to you, but if you want to take a Dremel tool and do some damage to the top of that, you could. Just make sure that you go in between the lines. So right now it would be straight on the top, and you could slightly round those or curve them down. Okay, now let's take our rust ochre. The name's worn off of this. I don't know. It might be new rust. We'll add just a little bit of old rust to it. Just a drop. Okay, now for all of those triangles. Now it's a little time consuming, but it doesn't take too long. Now I'm just using white Elmer's glue, full strength, and these go right on those engraved lines. Now we're going to add a little bit of rust to these too after they dry. So you start at the very end. And you can see you glue it on every engraved line. Okay, they are all glued on, and I want to point out the corners. Now there are 4 extra triangles, and that is just in case you drop some on the floor, you lose a couple. I provided some extra ones in the kit. So okay, now we're gonna mix that light rust color again. Now I'm gonna paint the tops of all of those triangles. Now I'm just making scratches on the bottom with that light color. And as you can see, I'm focusing more in the center. Okay, that is it. Now we'll put a primer on the detail parts and get those glued on. Okay, so I've sprayed a primer on the details. I'm going to paint the tires just a black color. I'm using Engine Black. These are from Archive X. These little N-scale tires actually have tire tread on them. And that is thanks to my son who does the 3D modeling. So I'm going very thin with the black so you can actually see those tire treads. Then we'll take our old rust and we're going to paint these cleats. And I still have a little black on my brush, that's okay. These are a little tall, but I made it that way so that you could actually use thread, and if you know how to actually do the proper tying, you can do so. Okay, we'll let this dry. I am going to, after that dries, come back with some gunmetal gray and hit the tops of those and maybe the edges. Okay, on these tires, quick, we'll do some dry brushing with neutral gray. I want to make sure you're holding them the way they're going to be glued on the side. Now we'll get these cut off. I really highly recommend using a brand new blade to cut these off of the supports. 3D parts are fragile. They can be kind of brittle. So just be very careful. Okay, let's get our tires glued on. I'm actually going to use super glue. Okay, now we'll get our cleats glued on. So I just set them in place and then I push down on the center of them. Okay, our barge is finished, and I would say, I think that was about 3 hours. Let me check my phone. Yeah, close to 3 hours for this project. Now the tugboat's going to take us, I'm guessing 4 or 5. We'll see. Oh, I forgot to glue on the bumper. And one last step. So I just took some photographs on my phone. I just simply put it on a little piece of styrofoam and photographed it, and I noticed that there was no dirt in these little like corners here at the bottom of the wall, and it just looked weird to me. Didn't look natural. So we're going to take some black and dark brown, and again, I apologize, I don't know where these pigments came from. Somebody sent them to me. I really like them, but you can just grind up some soft pastels and use that too. Oh yeah, this is already making such a big difference. Just a little bit on your brush. Yeah, let me show you quick if I can find it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I have a box of pastels, and the key is to buy soft pastels. Make sure it says soft pastels on the box. And people always ask me, do I spray a dull coat over it? No, I do not. A lot of times the dull coat will make your pigments disappear. So make sure you do this step last, and then be very careful when handling it. And once it gets put on the layout, it's fine. There's no need to seal it. Okay, I'm much happier with that. That looks great. Now, one more step. It's up to you. You don't have to do this. But if you want to take some of the silver, we're doing the edges and the corners. It's very subtle, very subtle. Okay, that's it. Now it is finished. I don't know if you can see that silver on the edge of stuff, but it really gives it a metal look. All right, now let's move on to the tugboat. Okay, so here are all the pieces that we'll need for the tugboat. First, let's start with this. And we need to cut out all of those pieces. Okay, you may have to do some cutting from the back. And it's easier to see the tabs from the back side. And don't forget to file the edge of all your pieces. Make sure they're perfectly flat, just like we did on the barge. Okay, just like on the barge, make sure that the back is flush. And you'll see the front, it's recessed back. All right, let's get this glued together. So here are all the side pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're going to take these and put a gray primer on them. Okay, we have a primer on those parts. Now, this part's a little tricky, but we need to mask off these side panels, because the bottom is going to be red and the top is going to be black. I'm going to use this as a guide. That's how thick our stripe is. Okay, so I masked off the red area. What's going to be red. But first we're going to paint the black. And don't try to paint it all at once. Just get a thin coat of black on there first. Now with the 3, we're just doing the thin ones, not the thick ones. The thick ones are going to be red. Okay, that first one's already dry. It's so much easier painting that second coat. Okay, I just peeled the tape off. Not too bad. A little bit of the black went under the tape. Very little. So I was happy. Now I'm using brick red, but we're going to mix. I don't know if I should use a metal. Maybe. Metallic red. We'll try it. So I just put some brick red on there. Now I'm using this metallic red. 2 drops. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now we're going to mask over the black that we painted. And again, we're not trying to cover it all at once. Just doing a thin coat. I'm going to add a little bit of a bright orange. Okay, perfect. Now we'll let these dry for a little bit. And actually, while we're letting that dry, let's cut out the deck. Now, let's spray a gray primer on this. Now we're going to paint those individual panels just like we did on the barge. You know, I wanted to quick mention too, when I spray paint the stuff, it's just like when I'm painting. Don't try to cover it all at once. Do a really fine light misting over it. Let it dry for a few seconds. Then do it again. This took me 2 coats, but it's very thin. It didn't go into the cracks. It's not too heavy. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to take these little pieces and we're going to glue them together. And as you can see, they fit really tight. Just make sure they're pushed up all the way in there, so they're flush in the front. Okay, now we're just going to paint both of them black. Okay, let's glue our sides on. We'll start with the back. Okay, so we want it flush on the top and the sides. There's a little bit of an overhang on the bottom, and that's what we want. Okay, now we'll do the sides. Well, you know what? No, we're going to do the 3 black ones that are thin. Okay, the front's done. Now we'll do the sides. We can take some paint and touch up the corners, but it lines up really nice. Again, make sure it's all flush on the top. There's a slight overhang on the bottom. Now we have these red ones that get put on the bottom. Okay, now we'll paint our deck just like we did on the barge, and then that just goes on there just like that. Okay, I've got the deck glued on. I also did some rusting. You can see I did some rusting on these. Okay, next let's work on the cab that fits on top, the wood structure. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to spray a gray primer, and I'm going to spray both sides of this. And I guess I'll go ahead and spray a gray primer on both sides of this and this too. Okay, I've got the walls sprayed with the gray primer, both sides. The 2 roof cards, both sides. The fencing, both sides. And the piece of strip wood, the entire thing, all gray primer. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray this with a gray primer too. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is work on the walls, and we're going to make the bottom portion red. We're going to put a red stripe on them, and the top part white. So let's take our masking tape, and let's put the masking tape right below the small windows. Actually, you know what? Let's cut a piece to use as a guide. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's how wide our stripe is going to be. Now we'll take our tape. We're going to paint the white first, so we need to mask the red. Wanted to show you that top wall section. Okay, for the white, we're going to use an off-white. It's called light buttermilk. Now you want to be very careful because you don't want to get this under the tape, and because this has all those scribed lines in it, it's going to be kind of rough. So go away from the tape. I'm going heavier at the top of the wall. Okay, let's see how we did. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay, we'll let this dry good, and then we'll cover up the white and paint the red. And then I think we'll do all of the trim, the window trim and the door trim red too. Okay, I also sprayed the roof card, both sides, with white. Okay, now let's paint these there's little windows, and you'll see the center is out of them. We're going to paint those silver, along with this one up here and this one. I'll quick paint those and then show them to you so you know which ones to paint. I forgot to paint these windows down here. Okay, now I'll cut those out. And then we can move on to red. We'll paint our stripes and paint all of these red. Now all these silver pieces, I'm putting on a little piece of cardboard. There's a ring on here, and that gets a rust color. You know what? We'll put old rust on it. And there's a little door below it. We're going to paint that too. I'll show you after I paint it. It's a metal door, and I'm going to sponge white over it after this dries. Now you want to go pretty thin because there is some engraved detail that you don't want to cover up. I'm going to paint the other side of the ring. Okay, I'll let that dry a little bit, and then we'll cut those out, and then we'll move on to our red. Okay, now we'll cover up the white and paint the red. Oh, I wanted to point out that normally on wood walls or a wood structure, I would cut these out, brace the back of the walls, stain them, then paint it. But by spraying a gray primer on both sides, you're sealing the wood. That helps it from bowing, and then just painting it. And now we'll just after it's done, I'll show you, we'll just put the corner trim on and glue it together. And I really don't think that these need to be braced if you spray both sides with a primer. And you can do 2 coats on each side. Let it dry good, maybe let it dry overnight, put a second coat on, and do the same on the other side. And That's going to seal the wood really good. Okay, our red is done. And again, I just used French wine, metallic red, and then just a drop of bright orange. The easiest way to cut these walls out is to flip it over and cut from the back side. You can easily see where the tabs are. And again, very important to use a brand new blade. I think it's even more important using a brand new blade when working in N scale. Just best to use a brand new blade, and I'll show you quick. It's off. I'll put a link in the description, but I buy 100 at a time on Amazon. Again, I'll put a link in the description. Alright, let me get all these cut out, and then I've got to cut out the little windows. But take your time. Take your time. These are fragile. And you don't want anything to break or snap off. It can all be glued back together if you do, but you want to try to avoid that. You know, the biggest change for me going from HO scale to N scale is constantly remembering to slow down and do things correctly. You know, for example, like cutting out all these little windows. Well, in HO scale, you could probably cut one tab and then take a pencil or your X-Acto blade and punch out the window. Well, if you do that in N scale, you're going to crack and break the whole wall. So you really have to go through again with a brand new blade and cut all your little tabs and then punch that out very slowly and gently so that nothing breaks. It's just slowing down and really taking your time. Okay, I just cut out all of my railings and those little triangles. Everything, all my pieces are sitting on here. Easier to see them on this white rather than all of this. I have this little railing which gets glued in place right in the front. Now, the problem with these little railings is we painted them while they were in the sheet, so we have to now go and paint the edges. Not a big deal, it doesn't take long. We'll just quick go over the edges, and they don't have to be solid because it can look like the paint is chipping off. Just be very careful, take your time. You don't want to snap any little pieces off. And I know, I can hear all the N scale modelers. Yes, we know, Jason. We've been building N scale for years. We know how delicate it is. It's new to me, so I just have to keep reminding myself to be very delicate with this stuff. Okay, now it's important. You could glue it to the edge if you want to, but I provided these little triangle pieces, which I now have to paint the edges because I forgot. They're kind of like supports. I think it's just added detail. It looks kind of cool. So let me show you quick on this one. We're going to, let me zoom in so you can see. Okay, we're gonna place a triangle right at the edge in the center. We're not gluing it, we're just placing it there for a guide. Hopefully you can see that little triangle there. Now I'm taking this and I'm going to put glue on the end of the 3 posts and then on the end of the railings. Now I'll show you why we put that triangle there.
And you see it goes right to the edge. Okay, next we're going to glue on all of the red window and door trim. Okay, all of the frames are glued on. Now I'm just taking French wine and I need to paint the inside of all those openings. You don't want any of the wood showing. I'll show you this quick when I'm done. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the rest of these, and we'll even do the door openings. Any openings we're going to paint red on the inside. Next we need to take our clear acetate and glue all of our silver windows to it. I just put a little bit of glue in each corner and drop it on there. It doesn't take much, and the super glue will hold it forever. Now after we get them all glued on there, then we'll take our blade, cut them all out. You do want to leave space around them because we'll cut them bigger than the frames so that when we glue it from the back side, they don't fall through. Now, if you wanted these looking like a little foggy, you can spray a dull coat on the back side if you want to. Okay, while we're waiting for our windows to dry, they're all glued in. Let me show you one quick. Okay, let's take this. Now that this is dry, just adding a little bit of rust. This will help tone it down too, so it's not so stark against that black and gray. It may be hard to see, but once I take the camera off, I can give you a closer look. Okay, let's start to assemble our walls. Now there's a lower deck and an upper deck, so let's get the walls that we need. Okay, these are all for the upper. And then these are the lower. And we have our corner trim. Okay, let's cut some corner trim to the same height as these walls. We're going to need 4 pieces. Okay, let's get these glued together. Now we need to, we'll work on this side. So the small window is in the front, and then this is your front piece. I need a couple more of these. I should order those. But you could sandwich it in between those so that it's straight. Okay, we'll give that a second to dry, and then we'll glue on the other 2 walls. Okay, that is finished. Let's take our roof card. Now this is the front, and the small windows are in the front. You want that hole in the back. Now I can feel that my walls aren't completely dry yet, but for the video I'm trying to hurry up and show you this. But I would let your walls dry
really good. Actually, go on and build this one, then do this. Make sure there's an even amount of overhang on all four sides. There's not much, just make sure that it's even. Then press it down and hold it for a little bit. Okay, I haven't glued it yet, but I'm just showing you that it sits like that on there. Okay, let's build. Actually, let's glue this on. Okay, it is 5/8. I'm putting mine 5/8 from the back. I'm lightly tapping it, spreading out that glue so that it's even. Otherwise, if there's large clumps of glue, when you set it down, it'll seep out under it. Then you'll have to clean it up, which is not a big deal. Just saving a step. Okay, so now use the scribed lines that are on there to make sure that it's even on both sides. You want it to be centered. There's about 3/8 on each side. We'll set that up here and we'll put a weight on it. Okay, now let's build this. Okay, that one's built. Now let's get that glued on. Okay, I just went around and painted the edge of the roof cards. Okay, let's work on the smokestack. We'll put the smokestack in and then we'll put the railings on. Okay, so you'll get a piece of straw and you'll want to cut the end off. I find that the end is slightly wider. Now, you could leave it and just do one cut, but there's a ring that gets put on here. Slide it up from the end that you cut, not from the top, because it won't fit. It won't fit over that. And all the straws actually are slightly different. They vary in size. You'd think they'd all be exactly the same, but they're not. So, yeah, I guess I'll just do one cut and make sure that I slide from the bottom. And we're going to make it 2 5/8. Now you may, let's see. I tried this earlier and it worked. I have a round file. Okay, it works. Carefully slide that on. Let's say I put my ring at 1 3/4. So the pipe fits all the way down in there, you'll see. I'll show you. And then that ring, I don't know if you can see that ring around there. That ring is at 1 3/4. Or 7/8 from the top. Okay, I need to spray a primer on this now. Okay, I've got my gray primer on there. Now we'll do black. Okay, now I just made a wash. I still had a little bit of black in my brush, just a little bit. And then I used burnt sienna and a lot of water. So my brush is kind of dry, and I'm just soaking up the paint that's puddling around that ring. We'll take our round file, just wanted to make that slightly bigger now that this has some paint on it. Now there's two little nubs that come out. Those nubs, you want them facing this direction because there's wires that go from those two to these corners right here. So make sure that those are facing back towards this rooftop. So I'm just putting some glue on the inside, which will run down in the inside and help secure it. And then a little bit around the edge. Okay, I'm going to set this to the side and let that dry. I don't want that to move. Make sure that you've got it perfectly straight. Okay, while that's drying, let's paint the edges of all of our railings and these triangles. Okay, I've got all the details painted and glued on. You can see the tires on the side and the cleats, the life ring on the side, rooftop detail, there's a barrel in the front. I even put in the support wires there. They were tricky. I sprayed a gray primer on the copper wire first, then cut them to length and used some super glue. I'm still letting it dry, and then I'm going to do a wash of old rust over it. Okay, we're almost done. The last thing, we're going to take old rust. We're going to put some rust spots on this and then do some streaking. Maybe we'll do a little bit on the sides. Okay, now we'll get a small brush and use some pigments. Okay, let me take the camera off and give you a closer look. So I put another barge together and sprayed it with a primer just to show you what it would look like with two barges. I would love to see this tugboat pushing like 4 to 6 of these. I know as a child, my grandfather would take me to watch tugboats pushing barges down the Mississippi. And it's just such an incredible memory that I have with my grandfather. We would just sit there for, it just seemed like for hours watching tugboats push all these barges up and down the Mississippi River. Incredible. So I will have these sold separately on my website so that you can buy multiple ones.
I hope you enjoyed today's video. This was such an exciting build. I absolutely love it. And don't forget, we sell individual barges. So you could buy the tugboat and have it pushing 4 to 6, maybe even 8, depending on the room that you have on your layout. Have it pushing that many barges. It would just be an incredible scene. All right, and don't forget, if you are a Patreon, you can get a discount on the kit. All right, well, again, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon members. You guys are incredible. I love all of you. All right, well, until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.